Now let's build the rear sprocket for the motorcycle. So we need something for the chain to grab onto. So over on the right hand side, let's go ahead and build the sprocket in here. And you'll notice I've got a lot of stuff just turned off. I'm trying to organize everything into layers here so that I can turn some of these off and freeze them if I need to have them turned on, just to minimize some visual confusion here. We'll get everything turned on once we get all the modeling done. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull a cylinder out, and I'll go ahead and just drag that up. Okay, so something like that. Give it a little bit of thickness. Okay, and I'll go ahead and pull this out next to the swing arm. Okay, let's go ahead and change some of the parameters. So we'll change the height to something a little bit thinner. All right. I'll also change the number of sides. Let's go ahead and bump that up to 36. Okay, we make that a little bit thicker. And let's go ahead and add to the cap segments. Let's make maybe 5 segments or so. Now let's go ahead and add some of the holes to this. So I'm going to go ahead and convert this to an editable poly. Okay, and I'm going to just get my select here, and I'm going to go through and select a series of polygons. So I'm going to try to select these all the way through. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go ahead and skip one, and then we'll go ahead and select through to both sides over here, and we'll continue on over here. Again, skip one, just selecting through, so I'm making sure to drag across, so I'm selecting both sides. Okay, and then up here as well. Make sure to deselect any of these that you don't necessarily want. Okay, so you end up with something like that. Let's make sure that we've got both sides here represented in our selection. So we do. So what I'm going to do is create holes in here. So to do this, and we can do this very simply and quickly all at one time, so I can go ahead and inset those. So I want to make sure to maintain some hardness there. Say OK to that. And then we can actually bridge those together. So I'll just hit bridge, and then I'll actually bridge from front to back. Okay, and we can also add segments in here to help us maintain that curvature, that hardness of edges. Okay, so that way we don't have to go in and add all those extra edges in there if we're going to be smoothing this. Okay, so now what we want to do is create the teeth. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select both of these edges. So select this loop and then this loop, and we'll go ahead and shift click on this little guy, and that'll help us select just the outer edges. And now I want to go ahead and do an inset, but I want to do it by polygon. So I want all these teeth to be separate. So I'm going to go ahead and inset that a specific amount. Okay, so it ends up with something like that. Okay, now you'll see if I go in and try to scale these, I can kind of scale them down, but in this case, it's not really happening the way that we want to. So I'm going to go ahead and just extrude those out, and you'll see initially, depending on what your extrusion height is set to, it might be a little bit high, but I'm going to go ahead and pull those out just to the height that we want our teeth to be. Okay, and we'll say OK to that, and then I'm just going to go ahead and scale this down to create these teeth here. Okay, scale them down, and then in the world, I'm going to just give them a little bit more thickness. All right, so there is our kind of our rear sprocket. So the next thing we need to do is add a chain to this. Okay, so let's go ahead and in the next lesson add our chain.